Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and you see that my tie is loosened up because I've been working hard. I'm a hard working black man, and I think we need to throw it up for all the hard working brothers out here.
Absolutely,
There we
absolutely.
go. And another hardworking brother I have on the line is Mr. Demario Solomon Simmons. And you saw this week that the owner of the Atlanta Hawks, or Atlanta, was it the Hawks or the Falcons,
The
Demario?
Hawks,
The
the best.
Hawks, sorry, the Atlanta Hawks really went into some controversy. He ended up having to sell the team actually because, or he didn't have to, but again, I think he chose to. Demario will fill us in on all of that, but basically, he was accused of sending out an email that many people considered to be racist. But while some people read it and were offended, and there were other people who said, no, he's just being realistic and talking business. And I wanted to get Demario's expertise on this because Demario is both a legal expert, he's also a former athlete, and also he happens to be a black man. In case you didn't notice. So, Demario, I'll start by asking you this. You told me off camera that you thought that the email wasn't that bad. That people were overreacting. What's the foundation behind that argument?
Well, as you said, I've been someone that's worked in civil rights for over 10 years. I'm also do a lot of diversity consulting. And when I read that email, maybe the owner could have used some more technical terms, but I certainly didn't feel like he was racist at all. Just because, see, the thing about here in America, and it really stifles our ability to really get to the heart of the real issues we have. Every time we even talk about race, that makes someone a racist. If you say black, if you say white, then you're absolutely a racist. But that's not what that guy was saying. I don't know that owner. I have no, he may be a racist in his other parts of his life. I have no idea. But that email didn't tell me at all that he was racist. It told me he was someone who was making an assessment of his business and trying to understand how he can drive more revenue. Now, maybe he could have said, hey, I want to diversify the stadium so we can have a greater attraction to a more diverse group. Maybe he could have said that. But when we, as diversity professionals or those who work in civil rights, when we go to majority corporations and we say things like, hey, we need to have more people of color. We need to have more black people here. Is that racist? Or is that just calling and being very frank about what's going on? I mean, in the email, he said, hey, our audience is 70% white, and I think that may be driving away some of the southern right whites who may be bigots who don't want to be around whites, but be around blacks. The reality is white flight is real. He was just describing a phenomenon that's happened in America for 100 years. He wasn't saying that I feel like blacks shouldn't come to my stadium. I feel like blacks are bad people. In fact, he said, I don't think it's been any problem with any crime or anything like that. Then he made the statement that we've given away a lot of tickets and we've given them mostly to black people. And maybe he wanted to give more tickets to other whites. Okay, what's wrong with saying that? If it was the other way around and I went in and they asked me to do some diversity consulting, I say, well, hey, you're giving 80% of your tickets to all whites. Why don't you give it more to blacks? Would that be a racist statement? I don't think so. When he says, hey, the music that we are mostly playing is hip hop and gospel, you and I, we like hip hop, right? You and I, we like gospel. We're black. Maybe whites don't like that as much. And so what he's trying to do is say, can we get more diversity? Maybe he should have used the word more diversity, but he was just being frank. Maybe we can stop using so much hip hop because we want to create a more family environment. And this is going to make some people mad, but I don't care about it because this is how I really feel about it. A lot of our hip hop, unfortunately, is not family friendly. A lot of our hip hop is toxic. A lot of our hip hop is vulgar, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, all of those things you want to say, and that is not family friendly. So maybe he doesn't want his NBA stadium to be filled with Lil Wayne and Kanye and Young Jeezy and whoever else you want to bring up who's really hot right now, because that's not a family friendly environment. Now, if that makes people upset, then so be it. The reality is talking about selling dope, smoking dope, shooting, killing, sex with strippers. That's not family environment.
Well,
And so, I just took. I apologize.
no. I think that you were on a great roll, man. I want you to continue that because you're right. I think that I know when I read the email, I wasn't offended. I think that the guy, at worst you could say his language may not have been politically correct because
You're right.
for some people just mentioning the word black or even mentioning reality is offensive because people, I figured out, in my opinion, people politically, in political speak, they'd rather have you talk about what you think the world should be as opposed to talking about the way the world is.
Right.
The way the world is that if you have a whole bunch of black people coming to the games, there is a possibility white people may feel unwelcome. Right? The reality is that black disposable income is lower than white disposable income. So you want the money, you attract white folks, right? And I think those are facts that can be stated without us somehow concluding that you must be a racist for stating the obvious. And I agree. I read through the email and I said, this guy doesn't seem like a racist. Then the fact that he, from what I understand, tell me if this is true. It looked like he voluntarily said, "I'm going to sell the team," because of my comments, because they were offensive. And to me, I saw that as a noble gesture by somebody who does have some degree of racial sensitivity, who may be saying, "Look, I don't understand why what I said was offensive, but I know it offended you, and I'm sorry for that." Is that your interpretation of that, or am I just off base with that?
I don't know. I don't know if his intentions are noble or if his intentions are trying to cash out at $2 billion like Donald Sterling. You see what I'm saying? I mean, hey, this is an opportunity to cash out. And just like in real estate, you go out and you do an appraisal, right? You do an appraisal on what a team is worth or a piece of real estate is worth. How do you do that? By what has sold recently. Well, the last team that sold was for $2 billion. So he's going to do an appraisal, and that's going to drive up the price of the team, and he might be able to cash out. So I don't know how noble it is or not, but I do believe that I don't believe that the email was racist just because it discussed race. And as you stated, we should be more outraged at the fact that blacks have way less disposable income than whites because our wealth is much less, and it has not improved. The wealth gap has not improved since 1970. In fact, it is now even widening more than it was in 1970 since the Great Recession that hit back into 2007, 2008. That is a fact. That is racist. That's what's racist. That's what we should have a moral outrage about. That's what we should have forums about and have programs about. Not about a man who's talking about a business and saying, hey, I want to make sure I have more people with money in my business. Now, could he try to figure out a way to engage more African Americans who are more affluent in Atlanta? Yes, he could have. Could he have used better language? Sure. But it's not racist just because you talk about racism. And that's something, again, that really prevents us from being able to get to the real heart issue. Now, and all the people that I've helped, my clients over the last 10 years, I will sue someone who has been racist. I've sued police departments. I've sued Native American nations. I've sued companies for racism, discrimination. I've called them out, and I will continue to do that. And I still work with companies to help them have more diverse and more inclusive workforces. I will continue to do that, but I cannot sit here and allow something to be called racist for people to get all blew up into a huge thing over when it really is not racist, in my opinion. Now, on that same vein, though, now Danny Ferry, who's the president of the Atlanta Hawks, it has come to light that he did make a statement that was racist about Luol Deng by saying that Luol Deng he has a little African in him. Now, this is a quote. He has a little African in him. He's the type of guy that will have a nice store out front, but sell you counterfeit things in the back. End quote. Now, that, my friends, that is racist. That, my friends, that is a sign of someone who does not have diversity and inclusion in their mind and their heart. That, my friend, is someone that may need to be relieved of a leadership role in an organization that is workforce is mostly African American and is trying to attract a diverse group of individuals to come to the game. I think that's a much bigger issue than what the owner said, and so that has to be dealt with, I think, more swiftly than this owner, in my opinion.
All right. Well, Malcolm X once said that in order for us to really solve the race problem, a white man needs to be able to sit at the table with a black man or a black woman and vice versa and speak his mind. And the black person should be able to speak their mind and not be afraid to hurt each other's feelings, because that's the only way you're going to dig to the root of the issue. And I also think that we have to be very careful, as you are, when it comes to pointing out racism, to make sure that the case is authentic so that it doesn't disrupt the ability to fight on other more authentic situations and cases that come along through time. Because if we scream racism at every turn, then eventually our credibility drops, because people are going to say, oh, well, they're going to say everything's racist, so we might as well not listen to them at all. So
That's absolutely right. It's absolutely. I mean, there's a difference between ignorance, prejudice, racism, discrimination. We got to understand those things and be very clear about what we're talking about. Because you're right. When real racism happens, it needs to be crushed to the ground. It needs to be fought with all velocity, all aggression, everything that you can legally do against it. It needs to be called out for how ugly it is, how destructive it is, how it just undermines people's ability for freedom, justice, and equality at every time we see it. But we got to make sure that we're doing it and we understand that it calls for that, because when we, like you said, if it's not authentic, if it's not real, and we spend that political capital, that legal capital, that social capital, when the next time when something real comes up, it really hurts our cause. And there's too much racism, real racism going on in America right today in our prison system, in our financial system, in our health system, and most importantly, in our political system. It's really going on right now that we need to make sure we're putting our eyes and our ears and our resources in the right place.
Right on. Well, you heard it from the great attorney's mouth. This is Mr. Demario Solomon Simmons. He's a prominent attorney out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, aka the new Johnny Cochran. In my world, he'll never accept a compliment like that. But I'm gonna keep giving them to him until it becomes entirely true, until it manifests itself. It's already manifesting itself actually with the great work he's doing in Tulsa. But you can go check him out at SolomonSimmons.com. That's SolomonSimmons.com, and his Twitter feed is Solo Speaks. Am I right?
Solo Speaks Truth.
Solo Speaks Truth. There you go.
So
he speaks and he's going to tell you the truth.
That's right.
Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm not going to lie to you either. I'm from YourBlackWorld.net, and until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.